Okay, so our common factor is going to be x plus 3. You can do the same thing. You can write that you're going to divide it, which is what we're going to do. And you're going to do this kind of math in grade 11. And usually what we would consider then is they sort of cancel out, okay? So this is going to cancel in the top here. This cancels in the bottom there. And like Claire said, what are you left over with? So we always write the common factor first. And then what's left? 7x and plus 4. So here we just wrote the common factor and then whatever was left. We're doing the same thing here, except our common factor is now a binomial. So here, what's our common factor? X minus 7 is the same or common in both. Right, we can cancel it out. Write the common factor first, and then what's left? 4x and minus 2, or negative 2. So be careful, make sure you're doing the sum. So one of the ways we can deal with equations that don't have a as a common factor, they almost look unfactorable, is something called group factoring, which is basically trying to do this. Trying to get a common factor, that's a binomial. So here, 7x squared, 28x, 8x, and 32 don't all divide by the same thing. They don't divide by 7. You can't get rid of the term in front of the a, or in front of the x squared, the a value. So how can we deal with that? So what we can do is we can group factor. And when we use this later as another way to deal with trinomials that don't have an a value of 1, it actually doesn't matter. Whether you group the terms, like if you switch this around, you would get a different common factor. You could put this with 28x with 32. You would get a different common factor, but your final answer should be the same. So this is a useful way to try to factor expressions that, for all intents and purposes, sort of look unfactorable. So we're going to group them. So we're going to group two terms together. If it helps you, draw that in. So now we're only looking at what's the greatest common factor between 7x squared and 28x. So what I'm going to try. Can I divide by 7? Yes. Oh, I can even do x. Okay, and once you do the first two terms, that gives you a clue about the second two, because we want a common factor. So our binomial has to be x plus 4. So if it's not, you've either made a mistake here or you've made a mistake in the second one. So here, 38 and 32. 32 is divisible by 8. Again, if you're not sure about that, do 32 divided by 8 in your calculator or use the multiplication table. I'm going to divide by negative 8. And what am I left with? X. So those cancel or divide. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. Negative 32 divided by negative 8. What's that? Positive 4. Are these the same? Yes. Okay, so if they weren't, then you go back and check again. So I'll write that down. Okay, so what's our common factor? Now it's x plus 4. What's left? 7x minus 8. It doesn't matter if you wrote the 7x minus 8 first and the x plus 4 second. That doesn't matter. Okay, so here we had a term that had a letter, a number and a letter. Here we just had a number. You can have here, what's our common factor? It's just x. You can have just a letter. But then over here, remember, we want to get x minus 5. So that can maybe help you. Yeah. Yes. If it's, I'm not going to trick you. So if it says factor, it will be factorable. Yeah. Okay, so here, what are we going to divide by this time? We're going to divide by 2x. And we'll get x plus 10 divided by 2, 5. X divided by x cancels out. And hopefully, once you do the first one, then hopefully this one you're like, oh, I see. If I divide by 5, I can get x, and I can get 25 divided by negative 5, I can get positive 5. If you like this, do this. And then all you're left with is, because that's the common factor. So just like yesterday, you can't just like get rid of it. You have to put it out front. So no matter what, if you're common factoring these kinds of questions, the kinds of questions from yesterday, remember, you can't just get rid, even though we're dividing it, you can't get rid of the common factor. You have to write it out front because we can check the answer by FOILing, right? So we need that there in order to make sure we get our answer back, right? Okay, so here, 4x. Sorry. Even here doesn't understand. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay, so now this one is weird. So this is already our common factor. So we don't want to divide by anything. But what number could you divide that won't change anything? 1. So we're going to use 1. Okay? again, once you decide what this is, you can kind of see, oh, it's supposed to be x plus 1 or x plus 6. I don't want to change anything about that. No. Well, common factoring is, but not like this. No. I want to see what you can do. But you still, like after this, if you want, you can study and not do this part. You can. Okay, so the next spot you're going to check using FOIL. And again, today you want to make sure that if it says to check, that you get marks for it. Okay, so it says check your answer for D, so I'm only going to do D. So our factoring answer was x plus 6, 4x plus 1. Okay, so if you are an arrow drawer, draw the arrows. If you're not an arrow drawer, you're just going to do x times 4x is 4x squared, x times 1. So again, if it bugs you just to put x right in the 1, no big deal. 6 times 4x is 24x. 6 times 1 is 6. So this is what the question looks like in D. Normally what we would do is then simplify, right? So now this is what we're going to deal with today. We cannot divide by 4 here to get rid of the number out front here. So how can you factor expressions like this? Um, we're gonna learn 3 ways. Decomposition, which includes group factoring. We're gonna learn a method that's literally called guess and check, and one that's called magic X. You can do what you like. Okay? So no matter what kind of question you do, and remember, like I said, in grade 11, Miss Tarantello, Miss Malecki, Mr. Wilkes, they love to make questions where you have to common factor first, okay? So that is, no matter what kind of factoring we do, that is still the number 1 step. Look for common factors. Can 3, 14, and 8 be divisible by anything that's going to give us a whole number? No. Remember, we don't want decimals. So this time now, we're still going to make our chart. It's still going to be add to b. But this time, because the a value isn't 1, actually, I'm going to use a different color. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, then you have to do multiply to AC. Technically, that's what we did before, except A was always 1. So then if you wrote it as multiply by AC, you'd be multiplying by 1, which doesn't change the number. So A times C is 24 positive. As you're good at this, you can just write the plus 24, like multiply to 24 and add to 14. You don't have to write this stuff in orange, but if it helps you, then why not, okay? So now we are going to find the two numbers. So 24 has a lot of factors, which is fine. So again, maybe now, if you are good at this, doing 1 and 24, you recognize whether it's positive or negative is never going to get you 14. But if not, then do the same thing we did yesterday. Start at 1, 24. That's not going to get us 14. 2 and 12. We do 2 plus 12, 14. Okay, but you would just keep going. You could do 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Okay, but it has to, just like yesterday, multiply to AC and add to B. So what we're going to do, yes, Eric. Yes, you can. Yep. I just kept going just to go through them all. Yep, for sure. Now, and let's say you are getting good at this and you're just going to guess and check, you might automatically be like, oh, it's obviously 2 and 14, or 2 and 12, and that's totally fine too, okay? Like I said, literally one of the methods is called guess and check, okay? So if you are good at your multiplication tables or you're finding that you're getting better at it, then maybe you don't even need the chart, all right? So now for decomposition, something decomposes, what does that mean? Breaks down, yes. So we're going to decompose this B value here, okay? So it says rewrite B as the sum of the two numbers found above. So we have 2x and 12x equals 14x. So instead of 14x, we're going to write 2x and 12x. It doesn't matter if you write the 2 first or if you write the 12 first. So if you like numbers, this is step 3 here. And now we can group factor. So now you're going to group factor. So these two, what's my only factor? X. So group the first two and the last two. And once we have a binomial, our common factor needs to get us this same binomial. So it can help you. It can be your clue. How am I going to get 3 from 12 and 2 from 8? What am I going to divide by? 4. Good. Okay, so that's the common factor. And then 12 divided by 4, 3x. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now they're the same. So now you have a common binomial that can be common factors, okay? Yes. So I did 2x plus 12x instead of 14x. Yes, I broke it down. I decomposed it. Okay, and then look at these two. What's the common factor? The only thing is x. These two, and then once you do this, so these cancel, you're left with 3x. 2x divided by x, those cancel, you're left with 2. That can help you because you want to get this from these two. They have to be the same. So then you could either think about how to get to 3x, or you could do 12 divided by 3, and that would tell you that it's 4. Either way. Yes. You have this at the end? Yep, that's fine. Doesn't matter. If you've done it right, it should work either way. Okay, let's do some more. Okay, so can 2, 11, and 12 be divided by a common factor? No. So we are going to look for two numbers that multiply to a times c, which is positive, I don't know where I put that, but positive 24. B is 11. So again, like Erica said, do we have to write down numbers if you know they're wrong? No. But if you want to do the same thing every time, start at 1. 1 times 24 is 24, does not add to 11. 2 times 12 is 24, but does not add to 11. 3 and 8 is 24. What's 3 plus 8? 11. Okay, so you're decomposing this. Like Ty said, does it matter which order you write it in? No, it doesn't. Your final answer should be the same. When you get to this step, if you're stressed, if you did it right, then try to go backwards. Can I get this back? 2x squared plus, these are common, 3x plus 8x. What's that? 11x. Okay, I'm on the right track. All right, so we're breaking down or decomposing that middle number, and now we can group factors. Okay, we're going to common factor our binomial, but it doesn't matter. You could write the x plus 4 first and the 2x plus 3 last. It doesn't matter. Because multiplying, it doesn't matter the order. Okay, so this question is ruthless because does, first you check, and like I said, a good thing to check, can these all be divided by 12? 12, 14, and 6? No. However, they're all even, so they can at least be divided by 2. So you can check that. So you get 6, 7, and 3, and then those numbers can't be divisible. However, when we divide by 2, we're going to still have a number out front of here, so then we have to do this way to factor it. Okay, so this is like the hardest kind of question. You have to common factor first, and then do either decomposition, guess and check, or magic X. I usually, even on a test, even on the exam, there's always a clue, like we check the common factor first. But like I said, the grade 11 teachers love, love, love to throw those questions in, okay? So we're going to our common factor is 2. These are all even numbers, so at least that. So you just put the 2 out front. We can't get rid of it. We're just going to leave it out front. And then we have 6x squared, 14. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Okay? So now this has been simplified a little bit. Now when we do a times c and adds to b, then you're looking at what's inside the brackets. Okay, so a times c this time is negative 18. So two numbers that multiply to negative 18 and add to negative 7. If you want, yes, one of our numbers is going to have to be negative because of the negative sign, then at least one. So it's up to you if you consider the negatives as you go or try to get close. So we have 1 and 18. That's not going to get us to 7. We have 2 and 9. Okay, so this will be 11, but it also can get us to 7. It's a negative 7. So you can do positive 2 and negative 9, which is negative 7. Please remember, if you are not good with integers, just try it in your calculator, okay? Because negative 2 and positive 9 is positive 7. That is not the same thing, okay? This is not the right answer. So you have to make sure you have the right number and the correct sign, okay? So now we're going to, again, leave the 2. We can't get rid of it, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to decompose this middle number. We're going to group factor. And again, once you do this, like you should be able, hopefully, if you do enough of these questions, you'll think to yourself, oh, 6 and 2, those are, 2 is a multiple of 6, 9 and 3. Like you should start hopefully seeing some commonalities, okay? So now it's up to you if you are a stickler for form, then you would need to use square brackets. If you just do double brackets, I won't take marks off. But 6x squared 2x, you can divide by 2x. So now that's our clue, what we're looking for over here. These two we're going to divide by negative 3 to get negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3. The x doesn't cancel. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. Leave the 2. Okay, so the 2's still there. And now we have 3x plus 1. So if you had to check, then I would FOIL this out first. and then multiply by 2, just like you did with the simpler one, okay? Okay, so when you do guess and check, you're really sort of essentially doing you're doing a chart, but it's more like it's in your head, okay? So maybe guess and check when you get to grade 11, you'll be like, okay, I've done so many of the other questions in grade 10, I'm better, I can do guess and check now. But you still have to think two numbers that multiply to A times C and add to B, so you're still thinking of the same thing. So the big thing with this method is you must check. Okay, so you have to check using FOIL. So when you do these kinds of questions, so the first number is 3, so it's going to have to be 3x and x, because those are the only multiples of, or the only multipliers that can get us to 3. And we need two numbers that multiply to get us 24 and add to get us 14. So we are, if you do, but we're going to also see, so it's like, to me, you're still doing a chart in your head, but, so if you do, let's try, 8 is, let's check, so we get 3x squared plus 6x plus 4x plus 8. That's not going to get us 14. So it can't be that. What else could it be? Let's try switching it. Plus 12x. Okay, so is that right now? Yes. So see, to me, like, when you are first doing this, guess and check is tricky, okay? always, always have to check for a common factor. So here, we can't divide any of these by the same thing, so we can just go right to the chart. Here, 12, 14, and 6, they're even numbers, right? So they'll divide by 2, so you have to do that first, and then you go to the chart. Yes, if there's no common factor, you can just go to the chart. Always check for common factor first, okay? So now this one is a little bit tougher because 4 could be 4 and 1 and 2 and or 2 and 2. So yes, I just cheated. I didn't finish. No, because unless it said check using FOIL, but if you're just using guess and check as a method, you just need to check that your answer is right. So if you can see this, if you look at this and you're like, oh, I know that's 14, then this would be your final answer. Yes. Whatever you like. Nope, whatever you like. No. Now, if you talk to somebody in grade 11 or grade 12, they might be like, oh, I always guess and check. So again, because you're so used to doing stuff like this, maybe you'll just get used to it in your head, but maybe not. So if you want, I'll just do this. Negative 12 and adds to negative 4. So not 1 and 12, 2 and 6. See, so some people will be like in their head, oh, it's got to be 2 and 6, because if I make this a negative 6, I'm going to get negative 4. But like Philip said, if you can't do this in your head, then don't. Do decomposition. When I show you Magic X, that's also a popular choice as well, so it's up to you. But Magic X is also thinking of the two factors, so they're really all very similar. So then it's going to be, yeah, I like decomposition. Okay, so 2x times 2x is 4x squared, minus 6x, plus 2x minus 3, and then again, when you're checking, maybe you can do it in your head. You just have to check you're right. So technically, this would be your final. But it's tough, right? Like this is easy here to do 3x and x because there's only 1 and 3 here, but we had to switch the numbers. So guess and check is tough. And here's the extra tough guess and check because, oh wait, good. So this one, what do I have to do first? Common factor. So 9, 6, and 24 are divisible by 3. Sorry. Now, as much as common factoring is annoying, now that expression is simpler. Okay, so it does help to simplify things. Okay, so again, we've got 3x squared, which means one of our terms is going to have 3x and one of them is going to have an x. It's tempting because it's multiplying, if you have negative 8 to do, and this is negative 2, to do negative 4 and positive 2. But in reality, then you're going to get a positive 6x and a minus 4x, and we want it to be negative. So it's actually negative 4 and positive 2. So again, wrong way around. Positive 4 and negative 2, which sort of at first you're like, that doesn't work because it's negative. Why is this bigger number positive? So again, if you don't like guess and check, then don't do it, okay? But just make sure you always check. So 3 times x, 3x squared, 3x minus 2 times, negative 2, that's where you get the negative 6 to give us a negative term up here, okay? Sorry, I just skipped a step. That's positive 4. First, oh no, I didn't. No. Inside, last. Yes. Two numbers that multiply to 8, and then if you add these together, yeah, you sort of get the b value, but again, you have to check. So guess and check is like maybe too much. So I recommend, I'm going to show you magic X. If you hate that, start with decomposition, and then as you start to get better, then maybe magic X. As you start to, maybe that's even better, and maybe even in grade 11, you might move more towards guess and check, okay? But it's literally like you're trying it out, trial and error, and checking it. So if you prefer sort of a procedural way to think of things, then I would do the other way. Okay, let's look at magic X. So this example is filled in. It's called magic X because you make an X, but it's basically the chart, yes? The top is A times C, and the bottom is B. So you're still looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to AC and add to B. So that's essentially the same thing we've been doing over and over and over again. But then there's this extra step here. Some people like it. Okay, so we do what's A times C. So if you want, write it in. 6 times negative 12 is negative 72. The B is positive 1. Again, if you don't like that, write it in. Positive 1. Okay? So two numbers that multiply to negative 72 and add to 1 are 9 and 8. So really, we're doing this. 1 and 72, 2 and pardon? Yes, he is. Sure. 2 and 36, that's not going to get us 1. So then, again, 72 divided by 3 is 24. That's not close. 72 divided by 4 is 18. Oh, we're getting there. 72 divided by 6 is 12. Closer. 72 divided by 8, right? So we're just going through the factors. So this is basically doing this, again, sort of in your head, okay? So now we've chosen 9 and negative 8. You have to divide the number by the a value, which is 6. So you get 3 over 2. So then that becomes one of your brackets. Once you divide by 6 or reduce it, then that's the other bracket. But when you do magic X, you have to common factor first. But you have to common factor anyways, but just make sure it doesn't work at all. Okay, so we'll do some more examples, but really, we're doing the same thing every time. So whether you take the two factors and decompose the number, or take the two factors and do magic X, you're always looking for the same thing. Two numbers that multiply to AC and add to B. What's going on here? Okay, so let's do this one. So we're gonna do two numbers that multiply to 40 and add to 13. Negative 13, negative 13. But again, maybe you don't know two numbers that multiply to 40 in your head, right? So you're still kind of thinking 1, 40, 2, 20. 3 doesn't work. 4, 10. 5, 8. Oh, we're good now, right? If you do 5 plus 8, that's 13. We don't want positive 13. We want negative 13, okay? So it doesn't matter, just like before, write them down. Negative 5, negative 8. Keep it color-coded if you like. A is 2, so you divide by 2. Can 5 over 2 be reduced? No. So this becomes a bracket. The only thing is the bottom goes first. So 2x minus 5. This one has to be reduced. So let's say it's like this. What's negative 8 over 2? Okay? That's not really going to help us. Every single number, what's it a number over? So now you take this. And again, if you don't like x, then write the 1. 1x minus 4. not so bad, especially if there's positives. What are two numbers that multiply to 15 but add to 16? Has to be 15 and 1, or 1 and 15, right? Divide by A. Reduce if necessary. 15 divided by 5 is 3. I recommend that you write over 1. This one's fine. So now we have 1x plus 3, 5x plus 1. So similar to yesterday, there's sort of straightforward ones. Then you have to do ones where you have to common factor first. This one is one where you actually have to simplify to make standard form. First, okay? So it gets progressively different. Now, if you would rather study for this afternoon's quiz, that's fine. Or you can start doing this homework because, again, it's the same thing, right? Two numbers that multiply to AC and add to B, you're basically doing the same thing. I would like to, you don't have an unlimited amount of time to do the quiz, and it shouldn't take you that long because I want to for sure at least do 4.5 today. 6.1 is factoring, but basically applying the factoring to word problems, but you're given the equation. So the word problems are actually not that tricky. And then you'll have all day tomorrow mostly, and the test will be Friday after lunch, so Friday morning as well, okay? So lots of chance to practice. Pick a method you like Kyle said. I'm never going to ask you factor this by decomposition, factor this by guess and check. You do what you like, okay?